to order on this Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. Roll call, Ms. Cindy.
Ms. Richards.
Present.
Mr. Toller.
Here.
Ms. Abrams.
Here.
Mr. Westmoreland.
Present.
Mr. Duncan. Here. Mr. Bush.
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here.
Ms. Simmons. Ms. Dominguez.
Present.
We could not get our feed from Independence High School, so if everyone would please stand. And Mr. Toller, since you've been so patriotic with everything for us the last few weeks, would you lead us in pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of you who don't know, Mr. Toller is with the National Guard. He's been helping out a lot during Hurricane Ida.
Is he gonna sing the patriotic song too?
No, y'all would run.
All right, moving on to D, consider approval of board minutes from August 17th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Westmoreland, second by Mr. Toller. Call for a vote.
Voting is open.
I voted never mind.
You can change it.
Let me change my vote. I clicked the wrong click.
You want to vote yes, Mr. Toller? Okay.
I thought he said he voted.
Yes,
he
Ms.
voted
Richards?
never
Yes, okay. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to E, consider approval of board minutes from August 29th, 2021.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Westmoreland,
Second.
second by Mr. Bush. Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to committee reports, Finance Committee from September 21st, 2021. Do I have a motion to accept?
Move to adopt.
Mr. Westmoreland made the motion. Ms. Janice, second. Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to B, Personnel Committee report from September 21st, 2021. Do I have a motion to accept? By Ms. Janice,
Second.
by Mr. Westmoreland. Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Going to move on to our superintendent's reports and recommendations. A, update on the post-Hurricane Ida recovery efforts. Mr. Brett Schnattelbach.
Yeah, before Mr. Schnattelbach gets up, I would like to read some things from here before he talks about our temporary repairs and our process for permanent repairs. But as we all know, August 29th, we had the strongest hurricane to hit the Gulf Coast in Louisiana, causing great destruction to not only our residents, but our school system. We confirmed damages to all of our 32 campuses, as well as our satellite buildings. The cost, unbelievably, initially $7.2 million. We actually think it'll be more than that when it's all said and done. We do have insurance, and we will ask for reimbursement from FEMA on what our insurance doesn't cover. Every school in the district suffered serious damages. Almost all the schools had some degree of roof damage. Some had little, some had a lot. The roof issues led to other water-related problems in school buildings that are extensive. The metal canopies across the parish were hit hard. You've probably seen them crumbled up, now removed, leaving behind just a mangled aftermath. The repairs will take time, so please be patient. Those permanent repairs that Mr. Schneidelbach's going to talk about tonight. And any of you that are experiencing this on a personal level in your own home, you know the extent of what this is, trying to get the contractors lined up, that somebody that can do the work, working with your insurance company for your adjuster, and then also any reimbursements from FEMA can be pretty complicated. So multiply that times 32 is what we have in our district and what we've been dealing with. We have made the temporary repairs to our buildings, and we've partnered with a national disaster recovery agency called Cottons to clean our buildings for the return of our faculty and student. This group works all over the country and are experts in their field. This is what they do. They go from disaster to disaster, cleaning it up and preparing it for return to normal operations. We have had multiple meetings every week, at least 2 a week, with our principals over the last 3 weeks. We created a Google Doc for our principals and our maintenance team, and all of us share the document where they report concerns for their schools each day. And so initially, the custodians and the school principals looked at their schools and made reports on this Google Doc, along with our contractor and the disaster team that were out as well, assessing the damages from the hurricane. We revisit this document daily, and we progress monitor on what's completed and what's not completed as we go through. Some things are easy fixes, some things are more long-term. We've held regular briefings with our general contractor who's helping to do the temporary stuff for us on our roof, all of our roofs, and our disaster recovery team to ensure that we were ready for the reopen. And actually today, we welcomed our students back. Yesterday, our school faculty and staff returned to our schools, and additional areas were brought. So once you get all the faculty back on the campus, they saw things in their classrooms and other issues that were reported to the principal. The principal adds those things to the Google Docs and emails us directly if it's something that's a safety hazard that needs immediate attention, like ASAP that day, that hour. But it's added to the Google Docs, and then all the teams have worked, really led by Mr. Schneidelbach over the 3 weeks for preparing for reopening. I do want to say that today I was alerted to some Facebook posts of some relatives of employees, maybe some employees, I don't know who all. I haven't personally had time to look at Facebook. And we don't look at Facebook for reportings of repairs. We look to our principals to report the repairs that they need at their school and the things that they need addressed. So anyone out there listening, I would advise you, if you see something or you know of something or you've heard of something or you've seen something for yourself at a school that needs to be addressed, email the principal. The principal puts it on the document and it is immediately addressed. That's how the system works. Putting it on Facebook is not helping matters. We're not getting up and looking at Facebook every day to see what our work list is. So I advise everyone to do that. And some of the screenshots that were sent to me today from people where I don't even know if it's stuff from in our buildings or not. We can't even verify that. So again, report to the principal, and that way we can address it as soon as possible. We have received the Department of Health has cleared the buildings, especially the ones that are most damaged. So we had, as I said earlier, some with minor, some with a lot. So the ones that especially had a lot of water damage, they've gone in and they've cleared us to reopen our facilities. We have an insurance adjuster that has a team, a big team, of about 25, I believe, that is out assessing buildings still for damages, because after Hurricane Nicholas came through with the rain, there were additional issues that were revealed that were not caught initially when Ida came through. They're assessing those still, and they're also looking at any environmental issues in schools. She has a team that's focusing just on environmental issues in schools. We have literally done everything humanly possible to prepare our schools for the safe opening for our students and our employees, and we will continue to go back and follow up on anything that's reported through the principal that's added. We will go back and relook at that again to make sure that it is addressed. Today, we were out visiting our schools. We did walkthroughs of our schools that had greatest damage in terms of water damage. We saw the majority of our schools that had a very smooth opening to school. Our students were excited to see their teachers. Teachers were excited to see their students. And we got some sense of normalcy back today. We had very few issues for the first day after being closed for 3 weeks after a major hurricane. And I just want to personally thank Mr. Schnattelbach, our other assistant superintendents, our maintenance team, our contractors we've been working with, our disaster recovery teams have been working 7 days a week, nonstop, at night, in daytime, whenever, to get the job done, and I appreciate that. And I also want to thank the principals for helping to really capitalize those areas of their schools that we need to address still. So we appreciate those efforts. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Schnattelbach to give us an update on our temporary repairs that we have done to protect our facilities, and then also the process for bidding out permanent repairs that we have to have done. And we'll take any questions that the board would have at the end. We appreciate y'all's patience as well.
Thank you, Ms. Sealy. So the district, with the help from Frank Anzalone, general contractor, Cotton Global Disaster Solutions, and our maintenance and school-based custodial staff, performed the following tasks after Hurricane Ida. We cleaned up all vegetation debris from all campuses and placed the debris along the public roadway. We cleaned up and removed all building construction debris from all campuses and disposed of it properly. We entered into an MOU with the parish to have all vegetation debris removed from all campuses and disposed of properly. That work is currently underway. We inspected, assessed the damage of all campuses in the administrative offices. We began work of documenting our storm damage. We completed all temporary roof repair work, putting a stop to future water damage. We removed all wet and damaged ceiling tiles and insulation throughout the district. We removed damaged flooring, both carpet and VCT tile, as identified by inspection. We utilized an abatement specialist as needed. We documented and removed damaged textbooks, classroom materials, rugs, etc. We disinfected and cleaned with antibacterial agent school surfaces as needed. We extracted all storm water and utilized drying equipment as needed. We utilized air scrubbers as needed. We utilized temporary generator power to run required equipment or entire school as needed. We installed new human guard ceiling tiles as needed to control the air temperature in various schools. For individual ceiling tile installation will be performed by our maintenance department in the upcoming days. We are nearly completed with all work that can be performed under the FEMA's categories A and B, which would be emergency work. So category A is debris removal, category B is emergency protective measures. We're nearly finished that item. Now we're getting to the permanent work stage of this process. Category E, building and equipment. So currently right now, we have a 5% storm deductible of campus value district-wide. So a school, just for an example, like Ponchatoula High, 5% of value is $1.2 million. That's our deductible for any damage at Ponchatoula High School. We anticipate we're going to exceed that with Ponchatoula High damage. It could be in excess of $3 million. So we'll be responsible for 1.2. The insurance will be responsible any above that. FEMA will help us one time with that storm deductible. And in order to comply and get FEMA's assistance, we have to jump through the hoops and processes that FEMA requires. Some of those hoops is that on all permanent work, we have to get 3 quotes, and we have to bid that out and get permanent work. We're going to go through that process. So the general contractor has identified, or is in the process of identifying, all our permanent work. Once we have that work, we're going to get with our architects, and we will identify these repair projects with assistance from both our architectural teams. We'll develop the scope of work for each major project, and we'll go ahead and bid that work out under the emergency work and get it as fast as possible. So we will bid this work under our declared emergency procedure and follow FEMA requirements, and that work should start this week on identifying those permanent projects and getting that bid out as soon as possible. So that's kind of an update. I'll entertain any questions.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So Brett, on those bigger projects that the administration's going to be sending the quotes out and bids, et cetera, what is the procedure that y'all will be using to keep the board informed as to the progress on those projects?
Well, we'll be identifying the projects. We really haven't decided, but we could certainly keep via email what projects are being bid when. We will be advertised as a normal bid project on our website, in the local paper. It just won't be a 28-day bid. It may be a 7 to 10-day bid, or 14 at the longest. And then it will be a sealed bid process. It will be advertised on our normal websites and bid advertisement sites. And some of the requirements we would want is that the work could begin immediately, that the vendor could come in and do our work. Some of the big projects I know of right now is going to be like re-roofing Ponchatoula High. That is going to be a huge project. Re-roofing Independence High is going to be a huge project. Rebuilding the roof at Tasp is going to be a huge project. So those are just a couple of the sample projects. But there'll be retiling of schools, floor tiling, ceiling tiles, and things like that could also be big projects.
Could we do something similar? And I'm sure y'all will talk about it and figure it out, but I found that Google Doc that Ms. Stilley was talking about has been helpful because you shared it with us once, but then
yes, we could do that and update it. I'm in the process with FEMA has a lot of requirements. The last time we went through FEMA for assistance was our 2016 flood. Things have changed significantly for FEMA since then. So Ms. Stilley and I have entered into a contract with a FEMA consultant, DCMC, out of Baton Rouge, and they are assisting us, and we will use them to help identify our projects and meet the requirements of, because there's a minimum requirement on some of these PWs, project work orders, and there's a ceiling amount. So we'll kind of work with them to identify what falls in these ranges and kind of group small projects together into a larger one to make it a qualifying reimbursement. But yeah, we'll certainly, there's a spreadsheet that shows, that I'm developing right now, each PW, what school it's based on, a description of the project, what architect's working on it. We could put timelines of when it's advertised, when it will open, things like that.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful if that's just shared with us, just so, because I don't want to call you every time I hear or get questions about a particular project, and when it's, try to find that information out. But, if we could just know which projects have been identified and what's the timeline for getting those things repaired. One that comes to mind is the library at Hammond High. It looked really bad, but I don't know.
Correct.
What y'all assess there and where that falls in the category that you've been talking about this morning. So.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Yeah, real quick. The contracts that we have with the emergency, like the food and stuff, explain to us. I understand they got bombarded probably with the hurricane just like the rest of us, but we have that in place to try to save some of those food products.
The problem with that is the vendor could not find, one, drivers, could not get diesel, and did not have power at his storage. So he could not dispense his freezer trucks to our sites to have the food transported into the freezer truck.
And that
He did not have
contract,
the employees to meet that need.
so the contract that we award for that protection, is that something that we pay for? Or is that just a price that we negotiate?
It was a price we negotiated. There was no cash transaction, and there was no repercussions for his failure to perform.
Do we need to look at that in the future as far as
Right, Ms.
someone's-
Reed and I have talked about it, and I've talked with Ms. Dilly. I think we're gonna look at maybe some generation power on more of our freezers.
Yeah.
And maybe even
I
a
think that's
centralized freezing point for ourselves.
Put generators on our
something we can
freezers.
pull items back to?
FEMA's gonna help us on that, to the tune of 75%, but it was a little over $350,000 of food we lost.
One question, Mr. Snodgrass, is that 75%, if we go through all the hoops that FEMA requires, we expect to get 75% back of the deductibles and things?
At this particular point, yes, I'm hoping that the storm qualifies for federal jump up to 90%.
Okay.
That would be ideal. I think that may happen.
All right, thank
There's
you.
a threshold as a state we need to meet.
Anybody else?
And that's based on the amount of damage in the state
I
or the
think
amount of
so,
damage
yes,
in the
ma'am.
parish?
I think it's based on the total state,
Okay.
but that's just my understanding. I'm not the FEMA expert.
Mr. Bush?
Think anybody else?
You talking about floor tile, ceiling tile, roofs. Where are the students going to be at when all this takes place? Are we going to wait till all
Well,
day?
we've temped the roofs, so the roofs are temporarily safe. Students could be in the school as we re-roof the schools. It's not
Okay.
going to be able to close, but we're going to try to do a lot of the work on evenings and weekends too, to make it happen quick.
And one other question, might sound silly. There's a tree that's leaning on the DC Reeves carpool line.
We got that today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Tilly, on the update? All right, we're going to move to B, consider approval of the recommendation to make up instructional time due to Hurricane Ida. Mr. Jinko and Ms. Purcell.
Good evening, Superintendent Stilly, Board. This is something we didn't want to bring to you, but unfortunately we have to. Before I start, I'd like to thank Dr. Fussell and her group for putting together the options that our teachers were able, and that our employees were able to vote on recently. You know, we missed 15 days of instruction. We had roughly 3 days built into our calendar with minutes. So we are going to make up ultimately 12 days with the hope that there are no more interruptions to our instructional program as we move forward. We sent our employees the other day, and we had roughly 1,274 responses from our employees. 3 options. Employees chose option 1, which is on October 1st, which was our fair day, to remove that and make it an instructional day. The October 4th, that next Monday, October 1st, excuse me, was a Friday. October 4th, which was the Monday, was going to be a PD day, but bring that back into an instructional day also, and then add 25 minutes of instruction to the school calendar, to the school day for each of our schools. That proposal received roughly 41.2% of the vote, 525 votes out of the 1,274 individuals that voted. So that is our recommendation to the board to make up our minutes.
And
Need a motion.
so you will keep, I'll make a motion to accept that recommendation.
Okay, a second? Second by Ms. Janus.
So that will keep the professional development day in January then?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The rest of the calendar will remain the same.
I don't think it was a difference in 23 minutes or 25 minutes, so you might as well take the 25 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Cindy, do we need a call for a vote on that?
Will all that time be tacked on in the afternoon or something?
That's a good question, Mr. Bush. What we're going to do, whenever the board hopefully approves this, our supervisors will work with our schools to assist in setting up the time. Some of it we hope, if our groups or schools that start at the same time and work together, if they want to do 10 or 15 minutes in the morning, 10 or 15 minutes in the afternoon. It doesn't all have to be in the morning, doesn't all have to be in the afternoon, but our supervisors are going to work with our principals to get that quickly resolved so we can get that to our parents to let them know. 'Cause we know we have employees that have second jobs, and we need to be mindful of that also.
Question.
Go ahead.
I mean, along those lines, though, I mean, when because we've done this different ways over the years, when we say we're adding the 25 minutes, are we going to actually be adjusting bell times, like start and end times, or are we shaving minutes in other places, which I've seen done? I mean, have we gotten in that far into the weeds yet?
That is a yes and no. We are that far into the weeds. We have started those conversations with our principals, with their supervisors, and it could be a combination of all of the above.
Okay.
So there may be some shaving, if I started at 7:35, maybe starting at 7:30, shave a minute off of transition time here and there, and then add a few extra minutes in the back end to get us to the 25 of instructional minutes.
Okay. So most likely we will be adjusting bell times, because that's.
Yes, sir.
And when those decisions are made for each school, the principals will be sending that information out to.
We will notify parents as quickly as we can, yes, sir.
Okay.
We have to look at the feeder pattern schools in that area to align to, as well. But we will communicate that out to families as soon as we can.
We do have a public input on this, Ms. Dina?
Ms. who?
Ms. Dina.
That's for Knox.
Okay.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Ms. Stilley, President Abrams, board members. I know, take that off. Mr. Jinko kind of stole some of my thunder here, but basically I just wanted to come tonight just to bring you some comments that I've gotten from employees that are kind of concerned about, what's going on. Basically, well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Jinko and Dr. Fussell for the work they did with trying to figure out how we were going to do all this. And I appreciate, you giving the employees the chance to give their input. But there are still some concerns that they have, and I just want to mention a few of them, like Mr. Jinko has already mentioned one of them for you. A lot of our employees work second jobs, and they are concerned that adding extra minutes to the day is going to somehow impact them going to their second job, which they count on to support their families. And if y'all can work with them and try to, take the stress away from possibly losing the second job because I have to stay longer at my first job, that would really be appreciated. Also, I've gotten calls from the lower elementary teachers who are worried about a longer day because they don't get the breaks that maybe the high school or the junior high teachers get, and it's just a longer day for them. I realize that this isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's a work in progress. I'm asking that you work with the employees to make this already stressful situation less stressful, and to do what's best for the interests of the community, of the students, and the employees. And I thank you for letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else have questions, comments? Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, we're going to move on to other board actions. Consider approval of the certificate of substantial completion of Laranja High School Gym Stair addition by D&H Quality Construction. Mr. Schneiderbach?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this project's completed. The work is done. It was not damaged at all in the storm. We would like to go ahead and accept this work and take ownership of this room so we can use these classrooms.
Move to approve the substantial completion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Westmoreland, second by Mr. Mingus. Call for a vote.
Voting is open. yes by Ms. Richards. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add, the stairwell in the back of the Laranja gym actually saved the back of the gym. When a tree fell, the stairwell actually took the weight of the load of the tree and protected the gym. So it was actually a blessing to have that project completed. I'll have to thank Mr. Anderson the next time I see him.
Good deal. All right, we're going to move on to consider approval of the certificate of substantial completion of the Talbany Middle School floor replacement by Kelly Construction Group.
Again, this project is substantially complete. We've taken occupancy of our school and we're having it open back up. We just need approval to go ahead and have certificate approved by the board.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Westmoreland,
Second.
second by Mr. Mingus. Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, we're going to go on with our board member comments. We have a lengthy executive session. We're going to start on the end with Mr. Moore.
Well, I want to welcome all the teachers back. I know that enduring the storm and just dealing with your own family, personal family issues, and have been very stressful. I've been right there experiencing it with you. My prayers and my appreciation go out to each one of you. I know what a sacrifice it has to be in order for you to just be back into the system and working, making the school system work so that our children can continue on with their education. So I just want to express my appreciation and let you know that I am praying and hoping.
Just like to say I'm grateful that I didn't have any damage to my home. Had some damage like everybody else. We're all just kind of moving forward. My heart breaks for so many of our employees that have trees on their houses right now and they're still in the classroom. So it's a never-ending job. I'll just thank you, and I thank all of our employees because we know as a board we got list and list of all the things that were messed up, destroyed, or severely damaged that our employees have had to take care of in these last couple of weeks. And they have not stopped for 1 minute. They have done everything they could possibly do over and above what their job description should ever involve. And I don't know that we could ever thank y'all enough for everything y'all have had to put up with these last few weeks. Not just our administrators dealing with it, but our employees dealing with it every day. And I read a few comments, I'm like Ms. Stilley, I've been so busy, I haven't had time to worry about what's on Facebook, but this afternoon I noticed some ugly comments. And it's just heartbreaking that anybody would think that not any of us don't care about our students. It's just heartbreaking that anybody would think that. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this job. We love the kids, we love our employees, and it is a thankless job sometimes, Ms. Stilley, but I'm gonna thank you because I know how hard this has been the last several weeks. And, I'm sorry for the ugly comments that were made about our employees. And I'm going to apologize for some of the parents' comments. Everybody has an opinion, but we don't have to be ugly. It's a time to be kind and caring to our other neighbors who have lost way more than we've lost. And I don't even know how to comprehend some of the thoughts processes that go through people's minds. But it is just quite heartbreaking. But thank y'all for everything you do. And I will say, I want to thank Tom. I know he gave up 3 weeks of his life to be a National Guard person. And I worked for 8 days down at my local fire department, handing out food and cooking and cleaning and washing laundry for linemen and just everything in the world that I could do to make somebody else's life better. And I love my cafeteria ladies. I have always told them that, but after 1,000 meals a day for 8 days, there is no way I would ever work in a cafeteria. And I just can't thank them ladies enough because they do that every day, all year. So God bless the cafeteria ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, just real quick, a huge thank you to our school system. Everybody went through a big ordeal with this storm, and being back in the guard and going through it from this side. Of course, Brett's been there before and served as well, but the interaction between the school system and the recovery of our parish is integral. And it was really neat to be put in that position this time, to be able to sit at the EOC and work with our parish officials. And, you know, our recovery, the gentleman, General Conroy, that was sent down to lead the recovery up, he was adamant. Of course, he met with the superintendent, met with several of the administration. He was adamant about the recovery starts with schools. And he was also one of the ones that was trying to keep our schools ready for students, because it's easy to task our schools into all kind of different things because they're public facilities. But if we do that, we can't put students back in them. So it's that recovery and being in that place was not a mistake. You know, being at that seat was not a mistake. But I do appreciate all the support that we got from the schools. We did use our facilities a lot for distribution sites. And I've encouraged Mr. Primes at the parish level to sit down and let's do an AAR after this is over and come up with some memorandum of understanding between the school system and the parish, so that we don't have to call in the middle of this and say, can we? We need some things in writing to where we understand what campuses can provide. Loranger High School can provide a lot of essential things to that community outside of, because it's out in the middle of nowhere. So we need some more of those type of understanding between the two agencies so that we can better facilitate those things, and the use of our facility to distribute commodities and things to the public. It really came in handy. And we still use our shelters. We still have shelters that are in place. There's also FEMA money that we might be able to use to air condition some of these gyms that we can benefit the students out of these memorandum of understandings that we have with the parish. So once again, you know, it was an honor to serve in that position, but it really did serve us well to have somebody on the school board sitting in there in these conversations to help with our recovery, because the sooner we could get kids back in school, the better it was for families all around.
I would just like to ditto the comments made and thank everyone, starting with the superintendent and the assistant superintendents all the way down to every employee. I know we are resilient. We will overcome. We've had a lot of things we've overcome so far, and we will continue to do so.
Ms. Janice?
I'd just like to say thank you also to superintendent and to our school board and the administration and staff, because I know that everybody's working really, really hard to get our kids back into the schools and get us back to, they told me, a new normal. And in the event of all of that, I just want to say, because I'm right now sitting in the seat of bereavement because I have a first cousin that just passed with COVID, that let's stay mindful that COVID is still there. And please, please, if you have family members, please encourage them to get vaccinated. Please, because this is life or death.
Mr. Duncan?
So I wanted to share something that I was kind of convicted about earlier this week. You know, as adults, when we're going through these kinds of traumas and adversity, or at least for my family, you know, we had 2 trees fall on our house, so you get really wrapped up into all of the stuff that you have to do as an adult to kind of recover from this stuff, you know, with the adjusters and all of that stuff. And during one of my quiet times this week, I came across a reading that talked about being mindful of the social and emotional well-being of the children in your household when you're going through this kind of adversity. Because again, you kind of forget about it. You get wrapped up in all of this other stuff. And so the writing was really good, and I just would share with you some of the key points or takeaways that I had. You know, again, because these children are going through that same trauma that you're going through as an adult, but they're not emotionally equipped like we are as adults to go through this trauma. And if we're not paying attention to them, and being mindful of it, then it can really have some dramatic effects on them. So one of the things that they pointed to that we can do to help them through this trauma, number one, is to help them understand that adversity is a part of life, that facing adversity is a normal part of life, not an abnormal part of life, and that part of what we have to do as we grow up is equip ourselves to overcome that adversity. So don't treat it as though this is something abnormal. The other thing they talked about was keeping the important things important. And so, helping kids understand the things that are really important in life versus the things that are just kind of nice to haves. And so, going through what we're going through as a community really, I think, opens up a lot of opportunities to have those conversations with our children. Of course, one of those things that's important, of course, education, but preserving routines and traditions is another big part of helping them go through this. And I think that was one of the things that our administration understood, that it was very important that we get our schools open as quickly and safely and as quickly as possible, because that is something that our children, it helps to preserve those traditions or those routines. But of course, other traditions that we have as a family are also important. If we as a family are used to going over to Mama and Papa's house for Sunday dinners, to the extent that we can continue to do those things even in the face of adversity, I think it helps our children. And finally, being sure that we demonstrate and that our children can see us in relationships with others, helping them to see us act with empathy and compassion to others who are suffering, because we know that that is an important way for us to kind of lift not just others up through this, but it helps us to lift our own spirits. So again, those were some things that I was convicted about, and I just wanted to share them with you, that to help us just all be mindful of the children in our community, that they are really suffering through this, and that we don't need to ignore their needs, their social and emotional needs, or forget them.
Mr. Bush?
I have a question first about Chromebooks and not having internet, because even mine came home today with homework and we don't have internet yet. So what are we doing about that? Because a lot of our kids don't have it. So is there any
Really, we shouldn't have assignments that require Chromebooks because, a lot of people don't have internet right now. So I think that's something that we can follow up with our principals and teachers.
Maybe I need to check mine.
We put it out in our teacher newsletter today.
Yeah.
We went out to teachers today, letting them know that there should be no graded assignment for homework as we still, work towards stabilizing, and that if they have an alternative activity, that it can't require it.
Mine might have been telling me that because they wanted to use our hotspot. So I'm going to check that out when I get home now that I know that. Thank you. I should have known that. But the mold deal, and I was called today about mold. I'm not a mold expert. I wouldn't know what it looked like if I saw it. Your fifth grader's not a mold expert either, or your third grader. Now, they got concerns, and we are, and it's been addressed, and we're going to send somebody out there to check it out. But so when you see about mold in the schools, just be cool. Let's find out what it is. I had a house that had trees fall on it. It's got mildew on the sheetrock right now. In 3 weeks, you'll have the air conditioner off. It's got wet. It's mildew. It's not mold. So, and I'm not saying it is mold. I'm not saying it's not mold for all the kids at our schools. I don't know that. So let's don't jump to conclusions until we find that out. And let me just add one thing. I was there yesterday and didn't see anything. I went back today and I saw mildew drops. So it could happen overnight. I'm learning that myself. The next thing is the people of our parish were having chainsaws out Monday morning at daylight. So thank you, Tangipahoa Parish people, who helped me cut out of my driveway and go down 22 into Ponchatoula and cutting trees off Highway 22. Maybe we shouldn't have been out. Maybe there was a curfew. I don't know. But we had change and we were dragging. So the people of our parish need a hand clap because we pull together. And I always got to leave it on a silly note, right? We played San Leandro Central Friday night at Ponchatoula High School. Now Dr. Hurst and Mr. Duncan's in the same club. Got beat down by the Greenway Club. And so it was nice to be at a football game. Hang in there, people. I don't have internet. I don't have TV. My garbage hadn't been picked up in 4 weeks. Thank God I had water about a week and I had electricity. So we all are struggling. And I think everyone in here has a story about that couldn't get out of our house or couldn't get where we're going. We're people just like you. We're in the same boat, plus we have jobs, plus we have families. So we're doing the best we can. And I think the best statement I've heard tonight, and I want to shut up, is what Ms. Stilley said. You multiply what I'm doing with my house times 32. And you think about that a second, and you'll understand this is a big deal. We have a lot of money invested in our campuses, and it's a lot to go through to get them ready. So, it's a working process. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Thank you, Ms. President.
Going back to what Brett said about, our children and stuff, it's funny you say that. My 3-year-old granddaughter, she FaceTimes me at least twice a day. And she would FaceTime me and she'd say, Nana, I got to call you back. You're paused. She didn't understand we weren't FaceTiming, that we were actually having to talk on the phone. So she has come out and verbally started talking more since we can't FaceTime each other anymore, which was a good thing for her. But also, I want everyone to just think back on the last 3 years. It's going into our 4th year almost that we have had these school board members here. Our first year, we had a cyber attack. Our second year, we had COVID. Our third year, we had COVID, and we had a hurricane. Not to mention all of the other things that we've gone through in these 3 years. I cannot say enough about our administrators at this central office because they work endlessly to make sure our children get the best education, and they work endlessly for our employees to make sure that they're safe all the time. I don't know how Ms. Stilley sleeps at night. I don't think she sleeps at night because her wheels are constantly turning to know if she did the right thing. Like Ms. Dominguez said, before you start typing on that computer to post something on Facebook, think, is it something that God would want me to put out there and be ugly about? Because people are working endless hours to make sure that our school system stays safe. And I just want to leave it at that because, God, your parents always tell you, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. That means typing as well. We're going to go into executive session now.
Channel 17, proudly serving the Florida parishes.
The matter of Deanna Jordan versus Tangipahoa Parish School Board, move to adopt council's recommendation.
Second. You want to do them all together?
We're going
No,
to
we
do each
do a
individually.
separate vote.
So Mr. Duncan made the motion, Mr. Westmoreland second. Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Mr. Bush votes yes. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Matter of Hannah versus Tangipahoa Parish School System, move to adopt council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Duncan, second by Mr. Westmoreland. Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Voting is open. Mr. Bush votes yes. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Matter of Piazza versus Tangipahoa Parish School System, move to adopt council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Duncan, second by Mr. Westmoreland. Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Voting is open.
Yes.
Mr. Bush. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Matter of Utero versus Tangipahoa Parish School System, move to adopt council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Duncan, second by Mr. Westmoreland. Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Voting is open. Yes by Mr. Bush. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Matter of Alexander versus Tangipahoa Parish School System, move to adopt council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Duncan, second by Mr. Westmoreland. Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Voting is open. Yes by Mr. Bush. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Matter of Mercanti versus YRC Inc., move to adopt council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Duncan, second by Mr. Westmoreland. Call for a vote, Ms. Cindy.
Voting is open. Yes by Mr. Bush. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
All right. We have 3 public inputs. Have Ms. Kelly Brandon.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have been here before. My son was happy to go back to school on August the 23rd because of COVID quarantine. He was allowed back, and then he was never sick from it, and he went back for 4 days, and they sent him back home for COVID exposure again, never sick. And the kid that tested positive, I don't know who it is, but I heard from the nurse that the kid was there for 4 days until they notified the school. So they rode the bus and they kept the kids in the classroom until 4 days, and all could have been exposing these kids. But when my kid was called to not be able to ride the bus home that evening, he was mad, he was crying, he was upset. Now he hates school. He don't want to go back. He's very upset about it. But the school never notified us of why they can't give us any answers. We was told that he had to be picked up, he couldn't ride the bus home, and it threw a monkey wrench into our schedule. But we went and got him. So when we got to school, I asked to speak to Miss Mills. Yes, I'm deaf, and yes, I'm loud. The principal came out of her office with a bad attitude and a walkie-talkie. It was not how may I help you, it was how may I help you? And then when she said something else, I didn't understand her, and I said, what? She said, we ain't going to have none of that here. Well, I said, what are you talking about? Because I don't know what you're talking about. I come in here to discuss my child and why you're sending him home again. Well, when my husband said something, she came out with an attitude toward him. And she said, we ain't gonna have none of that in here. Well, he works for the National Guard. He has a tone like a man has, and he told her, you're not gonna tell me how I'm gonna talk or what I'm gonna talk about. When you want respect, you give it. It's earned. And so she simply threw us out with that RSO, and she called him to keep us outside. My husband said, we're not going anywhere without our son because he's mine. He's not the school's, he's not the principal. God gave him to me to take care of, and I have to stand up for him because nobody else will not. And after that, I knew something in my heart was telling me that I would be getting a letter stating that I can no longer be on the school grounds. So what happens to my child when he needs to be carpooled because the bus didn't run that morning? What happens when the fundraisers that we participate in a lot of, we can't do? What happens when my child can't be in Mayfest because we're not allowed on the grounds because of her attitude, and she wants to show that she's the principal of that school? So, in all of that being said, I feel like I'm being discriminated against, and my child is, because he is not allowed for us to be on the school grounds. We're not allowed to go and visit with the teacher if we need to, or nothing. Not even probably make a phone call, but we don't even know that yet, because nobody will call us back, nobody will answer our emails, no one will do anything except we heard today or yesterday from Mr. Hertz and trying to answer my husband's questions. And we've heard in the past from Mr. Jinko. It is very disturbing that I have to go through this as a parent, and my child that's 7 years old has to go through this. When he hates school, he cries, and he doesn't want to be there anymore. So I'm feeling like that y'all don't care about my child, and it's just another number in the school system. But if something's not done, I will be taking legal action toward LaRondra Elementary School and whoever else I have to.
Miss Dina?
What's the name?
Miss Dina? Yeah, I don't even try to pronounce your last name. I can do it if it's Italian. I can't do this one.
No, I have no Italian, the union lady. No, I have no Italian.
How do you pronounce it?
Esquinox.
Esquinox. Okay.
Or my kids used to call me, the students used to call me Miss E. Yes, Miss E. Okay. Good evening again. I'm Dina Esquinox, the president of the Tangipahoa Federation of Teachers and School Employees. Like myself, I know the employees, parents, and students heard your request for grace as the district deals with the aftermath of Ida. We hope that you will extend the same consideration to them. I'm reminded of the Tangipahoa Parish School System's motto, be compassionate, respectful, and great. Employees and students return to the buildings this week. They have concerns for safety and an environment that is conducive to learning. I'm asking that you listen to and address the needs and concerns of the employees who serve our children, and that you communicate in a timely and transparent manner, now and in the weeks ahead. We have all been through the worst natural disaster ever to hit Tangipahoa. They need to know that you care and that you are there for them. Tangipahoa Federation of Teachers pledges to work with you to do what is best for the employees, the students, and the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Keitha Quinn?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I stand before you as a parent and employee. Post Hurricane Ida, our schools received a significant amount of damage, including water. I returned to my classroom to find my room in the same condition from 2 weeks prior, missing ceiling tiles, mold, exposed insulation. As the day progressed, I developed a cough, tightness in my chest. I can only imagine how my students felt internally, and because of their age, didn't or couldn't express the change in their bodies. Prior to tonight's meeting, I went to urgent care for my sudden illness due to the poor air quality in my place of employment. I am now on several medications, including an inhaler. I also have a 6th grader who has pre-existing medical conditions who I kept home due to the poor conditions of our school. I'd rather have my child in school learning and engaging with his peers. Parents want their children in school, but safe schools. I stand before you again as a parent and employee who is suffering due to the lack of cleaning in our schools. I know the protocol is that you all do not give feedback, but the severity of the situations requires a public response from you all. By keeping quiet, you're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. My principal has stated to us that she has sent several emails to the proper authorities, you all. No progress. Still 2 weeks later. My priorities personally have always been God, family, and work, in that order. You have mentioned how well equipped and trained the crews are who were sent into our schools. I stand before you to inform you that those crews who were so well equipped failed, and they failed terribly. I applaud your efforts in the recovery process, but the safety for myself, my students, and my child is top priority. Thank you.
Keith, what school do you work at?
Lucille needs some pre-K para.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other public input, we adjourn the meeting.